Hey darlings, welcome back to my channel. Thank you very much for coming back. If you are new to my channel, make sure you subscribe to my channel, put on your notification bell. Also check out my other videos as you may find what you've been looking for. So here, the measurements you'll be taking is on the screen, and we're going to mark some reference lines here. From the shoulder down to this point is the bust line, which is 8.5 inch for medium to small size. If you're a plus size, you can mark 9 inches. Then this is the waistline. Add half inch or 1 inch to this if you're a plus size, which is 18 inches. And here is the side seam line. As we go on with this tutorial, you're going to be finding out what it is for. Then this is the hip line. That is the full length of our bodies. Okay, so once you're done marking these reference lines, we're just going to go over to the next level. Now we're going to be starting with marking out the shoulder, and I'm going to be marking 8 inches, which is the shoulder as a whole is 16 inches, and I'm dividing it into two, which is 18 inches. This is a kind of a standard for medium to large people. If you're in a smaller size, please mark 7.5 inch. Okay, so here I'm just going to mark this down, and at the bust line also you're going to be making a reference of the shoulder measurement, which is equally 8 inches here. Then you're just going to connect these lines together like so. Once you are done doing that, the next thing we are going to be calculating is the bust measurement. And to calculate this, you're going to measure around the circumference of your bust divided by 4, and you're going to be adding half inch to a quarter of an inch allowance to it for ease of movement. There's a good relationship between the bust line and the armhole line, so make sure you implement this. So you are going to be marking this 2.5 if you are going to be making a princess seam that, but since we are not going to be making it, I'm just going to put this in as an indication line. Then we are going to be marking the shoulder slope. From the shoulder down, I'm going to be measuring 1/3 of an inch, 3/4 of an inch right here. I'm going to be marking it right there, and from that 3/4 of an inch to bust line measurement, you're going to be finding the midpoint. Okay, you can either do this by calculation or by folding your tape to get the midpoint. Once you've gotten the midpoint, the next thing you're going to be doing is to place your tape on it and mark in 3/4 of an inch inward like so. When you've done this, you've gotten enough indication point to trace your armhole, and I'm going to be tracing it like this. So now that I've traced my armhole, the next thing I'm going to do now, as you can see here, is to mark the neckline measurements. On the neckline, I'm going to be marking 3 inches as the neckline length and 3.5 inch as the depth, as this is a basic bodice. So you can mark it to be circle or round neck, or you can mark it to be square neck, anyone you choose to. But if you choose to, anyone you choose to, you're going to try as much as possible to make it angular. Okay, as you can see now, especially when it's coming from the shoulder line, you need this place to be angular and not straight, so that it will relax better on the neckline when you wear it. Don't forget to experiment on different kinds of neckline markings. Okay, so you do well to observe all these little things that makes your work different from the rest. So here you're going to mark half inch down at the neckline, and then you're going to be connecting it to the shoulder slope like this. So after you must have connected it to the shoulder slope, the next thing you're going to do now is to consider if your bodice is going to have sleeves, and if yes, you're just going to extend this from here half inch out like this for the sleeve allowance. If not, you don't need to add sleeve allowance to this. So as you can see, I've added the sleeve allowance and I've curved it into suit into the original armhole we've marked before. So as we are done with this area, we're going to move over to the waistline. So the first thing we are going to do now is to mark the bust point. and the bust or nipple point is around 10 inches down here. So I'm just going to make a horizontal line like this. So what I'm going to do now is to mark the bust nipple distance, which is 4 inches. So if you're a plus size, you can mark 4.5 inches right here, okay? While if you're on a small size, not a medium size, you can mark 3.5 inches all through these lines. So I'm just going to mark 4 inches down like this, and this will serve as your dart line. Now to mark in the waist measurement, you have to divide your waist measurement by 4 plus 1 inch for that allowance. I'm going to show you what I mean right away. So assuming your waistline is about 30 inches, you divide it by 4, it is 7.5. You're going to add additional 1 inch to this measurement, making it 8.5, and that is what you're going to be marking for your waistline. So you go ahead and mark. So the next thing we're going to be doing is to mark our dart, which is placing our tape 1/2 inch across this dart line, and I'm going to be marking 1/2 inch across each of these dart legs. So as you can see, I'm going to connect this all together to create our dart. Next, we are going to be marking the measurement for the hip line, and we're not going to be marking the measurement at the hip line, rather we're going to be marking it at the side seam. And to calculate this, we're going to be measuring the hip circumference divided by 4. 1/4 of it, you're going to be minusing 1/2 inch from it, then you mark it at the side seam line. So here I'm going to show you what I mean in a bit. Okay, you can mark your straight at the hip line, but if you need a curve at the bottom part of your bodice, that is when this implementation is necessary. So I'm just going to place my tape on this, and I'll show you what I mean. So assuming your hip is 40 inches and you divide it by 4, you get 10 inches. You're going to be removing 1/2 inch from this measurement like this, and you're going to get 9.5, and that is exactly what you're going to be marking, irrespective of the fact that some would still go off at the dart while sewing it. It's still going to be matching with the measurements you have at the side seam at the end of the day. So that is how to calculate it, and once you are done with that, you're going to be marking that there, and then you're going to be connecting these side seams together. Now the next thing you're going to be doing here is to mark 1 inch away from the leg of the dart at the hip line like this. Once you're done with that, you're going to be connecting this all to the side seam line. It all depends on how you want to curve it. You can equally manipulate the front side of it, or you can take it upwards, or you can curve the front of it. Anyhow you wish to do it is basically your style. So I'm just going to leave it like this as basic, but you can always manipulate it to look as you want it to be. So here I'm done with this. The next thing we are going to be marking here is the bust dart. At the side of the seam line, you're going to be marking it down 3.5 inches. Once you mark down 3.5 inches, you're going to be taking it like so, and there you're going to be placing your tape 1/2 inch on that line, and you're going to be marking 1/4 inch across the line. Then you're going to be connecting it to the bust point, and that will serve as your bust dart. So now that you've marked this, in order to make sure that your pattern, the front pattern matches with the back of your pattern, you're going to be marking that 1/4 inch down here, so that when you sew the bust dart, is going to be matching with the length of your back bodice. So I'm just going to mark that 1/4 inch there, and I'm going to be connecting it smoothly into our pattern piece like this. As you can see, I've done that already. And once you are done with that, you're just going to add in your seam allowance by the side and at the bottom part of your bodice, and at the shoulder as well. So the amount of allowance you add depends on the amount of fabric you're working with and how comfortable is it for you to sew. So I've added my seam allowances like so, and I'm just going to go over to marking the back part of our bodice. So here I've marked out our zip allowance, and there is no stable measurement or static measurement or standard measurement for this. It depends on the kind of zipper you want to fix and how convenient it is for you to sew. Like if you want to sew an exposed zipper, you can as well use at least half an inch to do that, but I encourage you to use more if you're new to this system. So you're just going to place your front bodice like this. You are not going to be tracing everything out because your front bodice and your back bodice are not the same. So I'm just going to mark some indications that will help me to make sure that the front bodice matches with the back. And I'm just going to trace the side seam first, and then after tracing the side seam, you're just going to mark the side seams. As you can see, I've traced it already. I'm going to be tracing some indication points like the neckline where it stops, like here, and I'm just going to be tracing the shoulder point. These are indication points you trace on the paper to help you to picture how the front bodice look, for you to be able to mark the back bodice properly. So once you're done doing that, you're going to be also tracing the under part of your bodice, the bottom part of it. As you can see now, ordinarily this is enough for you to complete the bodice, but I'm just going to help by putting in the lines on the front bodice, the indication lines properly, so that you understand what I am going to be marking further. So here I've put back the lines so that it will be clear. As you can see now, our waistline, bust line, hip line, side seam lines are back. So the next thing we are going to be doing is to mark our seam allowances out like this. Then we are going to be marking in our darts by 4 inches, as we also have it at the front. At the back bodies, our dart will be starting at the bust line. Then we are going to be marking in 4 inches as we did for all, and we are going to trace out our dart like this. Once you're done doing this, the next thing you're going to be doing is to mark in the shoulder measurement as we have on the front, which is 8 inches. So as we are done marking this, you're going to connect it as well as it was in the front bodice. Note that on this basic bodice, the armhole of the back piece is different from the armhole of the front piece. So we're just going to go ahead and construct that of the back seam. So you place your tape on your bust line, and you're going to be marking 2.5 inches upward, and then from the shoulder line we're going to be applying our shoulder sleeve here. Okay, we're going to be marking 3/4 of an inch down. As you can see here, you're going to be marking 3/4 of an inch here. And what you're going to be doing, using this indication point of where the neckline starts from the front, as we marked on the back too, we're going to be marking 1/2 inch outward that line from that 3/4 of an inch to add our sleeve allowance to the armhole. So once you're done doing that, you're going to curve it in with these indication points. As you can see, this is what the armhole of the back bodice looks like. And from this indication of where the neckline starts, I'm going to be marking down 1/2 inch here, and I'm going to connect it to the shoulder line. And this is exactly what it should look like. So you're going to be marking the depth of your neckline at the back bodice. Now, because this is a basic bodice, I'm not going to be marking anything other than 1/2 inch for the depth of the neckline. So I'm just going to mark this, and I'm just going to connect it smoothly to the neckline like so. Now that I'm done doing that, the next thing I'm going to do now is to add my seam allowance for the shoulder line. And then after adding this allowance, the next thing I'm going to be doing is to complete the bottom part of my basic bodice pattern as I did for the front here. So that is basically it. This is so easy to make, and this pattern fits well for making fitted wears like suits, blouses, and the rest of it. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial. Make sure you like and subscribe to my channel for more interesting tutorials. I'll see you guys in my next project. Stay safe and bye bye.